It all started with the creation of Agora Community, which is our initiative to provide free educational content and professional character rigs and assets to students and animators everywhere. To make sure that those rigs could be used without any copyright issues, we wanted to create our own lineup of 5 original characters, each with their own unique body type and personality. There's Beta, our big muscular character, Alpha, who's more athletic and agile, Delta, an introverted tech-savvy teenager, and Gamma, their friendly quadruped companion, and Omega, their robotic assistant. Once those character rigs were completed and we were playing with them ourselves and seeing so many other animators in the community do the same, we realized that it would be a missed opportunity to not see how we could go further. So we started to develop a universe around these characters.
David had this idea of wanting to create just some short intros that would inspire the animators to use the characters. And then it kind of grew a little bit more into just this fun little story that they had where it'd be one event and everybody would look at it from their own perspective and we'd film it from their own perspectives.
Honestly, it's just meant to be action-packed and fun. We had the first IP that we worked on, the first short film, is transferable. It was very mature, very emotional, more towards reflection, sadness, and all that. So this one, which was the second or third IP that we're working on, was like, okay, let's go in a completely different direction.
There was basically kind of 4 stages to the short. There was them relaxing by themselves. All of a sudden they get invaded. There's a battle. Then they resolve the battle. And then, uh-oh, the robots are back again right at the end.
And through this action sequence, we're going to learn what is the skills and personality of each one of them, which then brought this idea of let's redo exactly the same sequence, but from the point of view of each different character. That was a very interesting idea, not only because it allowed us to re-explore many different times the same action sequence, but it's also a very fun way once each one of those will be released to spot like, oh, you know, you remember this action from this short, now you see it from a different angle, and what you didn't really understood in the second one, you now understand it in the fourth one. So it kind of creates a very interesting link in between all of those different shorts that we'll release over time.
Beta is this nice, gentle, big guy who is very, very strong. That's his power, right, from the crew. But he's also not perfect.
And I love when people in action scenes react and think and get hurt or make mistakes and then overcome them. And so we wanted Beta to be a little more goofy, a little bit more, there's kind of some decision making while he's trying to get through the situation. More surprise, more kind of relief at the end. That's kind of how we tried to push him a little bit, just to give him a little bit of personality.
One of the examples is that we made sure that Beta got hit in some cases, right? So he's not perfect, he's not dodging everything, he's not punching exactly at the right time and things like that. So he will, receive blows, he will receive punches, but he still manages to improvise and change his ways of fighting in order to still succeed.
It's kind of like decision act, I guess you could say. Once he realizes they're being attacked, he kind of notices the doors are starting to close, so he's kind of stumbling to get through there. I don't want him to feel like a perfect kind of run. We decided on that. He noticed he wasn't going to get to the doors in time, so he decided, okay, I'm going to bust the door open. He pried it open, realized that there was a big invasion. He saw them coming in through the garage, but when he opened up the door, he saw a lot more streaming towards his friends. He kind of quickly decided, there's too many of them, so I'm going to use this door as a shield. Then he used the door as a weapon, and then he threw it at somebody to finish it off, and then he went and started kind of engaging them. And he focused too much on them, so then some robots shot him from off camera. So he notices them. Like, this is kind of, if you get like the pattern. I'm a fan of that. I just love people being in a situation and actually being in it. Even with his last thing he does where he doesn't know what to do anymore and they're overwhelming him, so he just grabs them all and he just throws them out. It was just him improvising every step of the way.
We wanted to make sure that the movements felt really strong, felt heavy, because he's a big guy, so we needed to show that weight and show that power that he has. So in order to do that, we did some smears, some doubled arms, to kind of fake a sort of motion blur without having to show motion blur. Like an old school way of doing some stylization for the characters.
But generally we kept him pretty straightforward, like it was on model. It wasn't really cheating perspectives like for big fists and stuff. I was doing that mostly with the cameras. So I was picking a wider lens and I was trying to get depth out of the shots. And that happened naturally a little bit with the lens rather than us cheating his posture or scaling bits of him up. We also did a little bit of a cheat to make the robots smaller than their initial scale so that they looked more kind of just like tiny and a little weaker around him.
We felt like these were kind of just robots that existed, not necessarily to fight, right? So they're supposed to be robots that are doing manual labor or helping families in their homes, and they got taken control of, and then they start attacking the heroes. So we wanted to have, in the animation, really wanted to have this sort of clunkiness to their motions and to their movements to showcase the fact that they're actually not like battle robots. They're not droids that are gonna fight. They haven't been made for that.
We made their movement a little bit more organic and not very rigid. That was like the first choice we made. Wonky kind of walking and running. We tried to make them all look very different too. They were a little more cartoony and pushed than the main characters as well, to make them look a little bit more janky and bouncy.
We had this super cool rig where we're allowed to break the robots into as many pieces as we want, almost. So yeah, we were able to really do some cool like dismembering of an arm flying off outside of the screen, or a leg, or a robot splitting in two. In some cases, they're even afraid when they see Beta coming in. Some of them just stop whatever they're doing. They're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that. And then another robot is just like, yeah, no, like maybe don't attack this guy, So we do have like this feeling of them not wanting to do the fight, even though that's what they're here for. We have this sort of attitude within them to showcase that, yeah, they're not like full-on warriors.
Originally, I was thinking those people were like a secret agent. They were training in a hidden place. We're designing those sets where they were very simple and brutalist architecture, where the lines were very sleek and very little saturation on the material of the set. And also not a lot of complex decoration or complex materials. So it's concrete, brushed metal, polished marbles on the floor. And in contrast with that, we defined a very saturated lighting to play both a more modern take on the lighting and a more traditional brutalist approach for the set. As we did the design for the environment, we do the same thing for the lighting. We define a mood board, we define some lighting scenario that we like, and then from the camera sequencer, we select few frames from the most representative shots. And then we pull out those renders, we go into Photoshop, we paint over the intention, we refine the lighting that we want to do, and then it gives you a contact sheet of all those lighting scenarios throughout the sequence, and then the director said yes, no, and then we move forward.
To find this balance of how much warm the red was for the danger and how much of the kind of cold tone that represent most the character. So it started as being blue and lit, and then as the danger increased, it get more dark, it get more red, more contrasty.
But after they defeat the robots, it went back more to more neutral lighting, which was again bluish, not as warm as Beta's room, because that was his personal space. But now the whole facility had relaxed, and it was kind of in a bluish kind of lighting. And then the robots came back again at the end for a surprise kind of a second attack. And so we went into what we called Battle Mode 2, which was darker, more contrasted, more red.
Everything is lit from below, where previously everything is lit from above. We have a much more dramatic, we play almost like a zombie type of lighting, and those robots come back from darkness.
We lose all the blue that kind of represent the comfort zone of the main character. So it goes from very comfortable to less and less and less comfortable. So as the danger increase for the main character.
We just thought it was a nice way to split up the main beats. We did the same thing with the music too. The music was the same thing. Those were the 4 main beats that the music had to try and transition between based on the different kind of action that was happening or the beat that we were in for the short. We kind of treated it like a music video. We did all the short with a metronome from our layout stage. We were kind of timing camera cuts to the beats. We were timing main action to the beats, and that helped us get like a nice, good flow for the short that really went well with the music. And some of the impacts and some of the accentuations were happening at the nice times. So there was a conscious decision to pick and choose which sound effects came through. Mostly they were just story points. If I think it's important in the shot, like he's breaking the door, and that will help sell the story point of the door being smashed, that's the sound effect you hear. If it's him blocking the lasers with the door, then we hear some of the pinging. And then it's just a matter of just mixing it so that it doesn't overwhelm or doesn't take away from the beat or the rhythm.
I really like the input we could have regarding the design of the 2D effects. Having both the 3D and 2D, especially when Beta is hitting the floor and having this flashy silhouette there, having this 2D flavor to the show, I think that was more pleasing to the art direction that I was trying to define to the show.
2D effects were all in screen space based on the camera. So those were done once the camera was, at least the main movement of the camera was done. For the 3D effects, we had some placeholder that were updated as we were working along, so at least the animator could set when it would start to where it would end and work around that and tweak it as they needed. So it's not locked in time or locked in space, so you can tweak it until the end if there's any retakes. So you're not bound to one specific effect and having an artist come back and redo it again.
Even though we were doing 2D effects in screen space, we had some placeholder from Marco. He was defining the placement and the timing where he wanted to have those tracers or the muzzle flashes happening. So after we did the 2D element, we bring back that to Unreal and match the lighting for the timing and the interaction of the lighting on the characters and all the reflection that can have on those materials.
The first direction of the FX, they felt like they were just like snap on top of the image, which they kind of were. The FX is not on the character. It's way in front, like in the camera. I still needed to place light to mimic, to make sure that it feel real, that the FX was actually integrated in the scene. But usually it's more done in compositing. This time it was just about placing the right light at the right tempo. And there's a lot of animation going on with the effects. The effects, they blink, they go, they move. So it's not just lighting the whole image. It's about following all the step, all the movement, all the detail.
We had glow that bleed on the characters, and we have some motion blur that also are some of the specific from 3D that we wanted to have on the 2D FX as well. All those small details and post-process that blend both the 2D and the 3D.
Without it, the image would look unnaturally 3D and dry. With it, it kind of gave it this feeling that there's an actual camera, and then the light can sometimes hit the lens, and it just gives you these light wrap around the character.
Within Unreal, because everybody in the studio was used to do a comp on the end of every show, we kind of had to do it at the light stage and have some of that comp mentality directly applied in the engine, so you don't need to do masks for every asset. You want to change something to it, you can do it directly in the shading, in the materials. You can do it for the overall of the show if you need it, or just per shot also, which is a nice flexibility that you don't have in standard production.
Without it, the image would look, it wouldn't look like modern. It would look like ancient CGI, old video game, but Unreal is far beyond that now.
It got to a point where Epic was very keen to have Agora help evangelize the use of Unreal for animators. And on our side, we find it very interesting as well, because we were working more and more in Unreal ourselves. Eventually it came to making them a proposal of, hey, we could rig those characters for Unreal. Instead of just rigging them and distributing them, we could actually animate a little short film in Unreal directly. As we do so, we could share the process, and along the way, we're going to provide the characters for free to the community. The entire sequence is going to be on FAB, and Epic themselves can now use those characters when they're promoting the animation in Unreal directly. So it was kind of a win-win for both sides to collaborate on this short production.
But the fact that we did it on Unreal completely from scratch meant we had to kind of relearn a lot of stuff.
It's a different pipeline. Usual pipeline, it's almost like a relay race that everyone needs to complete their work before it's passed to the next department. As now, it's more like a marathon that you can go back and forth, and even if the animation is not polished yet, the lighting can be worked on because both of those departments can work in parallel. I mean, this is something that's been used in the industry for a while with Unreal, but for us to also do the animation was kind of a step further to kind of do most of the production directly in Unreal. The purpose of doing this sequence was very much to showcase where Unreal is at today for animators and what is possible. And for us, it was another step forward into working more and more in Unreal. So we're super happy with how it ended up. Definitely not the last short that we're going to animate in Unreal.